This is a project based on a 124-year-old event, told in a new lens by this current generation. The Battle of Ottawa and its long-lasting impact is a historic moment for our people, and as we celebrate, we hope to educate others as well as ourselves on the events of the past and how we can take the lessons learned and apply it to our future. We hope you enjoy this presentation and our perspective on what Ottawa means to us.
የሰው ልጅ ክቡር ሰው መሆን ክቡር ሰው ሞቷል ሰው ሊያድን ሰውን ሲያከብር በደግነት
To me, Ottawa is an event in history that symbolizes the power of
በክብር ይሄዳል ሰው ሊኖር
So, what is Adwa? Adwa means Ethiopia. They got independence and their pride, and the king was Menelik, and he was the one that leads all of the soldiers and the people to fight with Italy. And there's Aitu, that's the queen, and she also beat them. And yeah, that's basically it.
Hi, this is Jacob. So the question I was asked was, what do you know about Adwa? And what I know about Adwa is it was Ethiopia's fight. It was a fight between Ethiopia and Italy. And it was a fight for complete freedom since Italy had some power over Ethiopia. Ethiopia wanted to be they wanted to be independent, and so they fought Italy for freedom, and they won. And it was a miracle because Italy had all these advanced weapons, and Ethiopia was an underdeveloped country, and it wasn't as developed as Italy. So they fought, and with a miracle, Ethiopia won.
የጥቁር ደም አምባ አድዋ አፍሪካ እምዬ ኢትዮጵያ
The lesson they can learn is the power of unity, because the Ottawa, it was when Ethiopia's and Eritreans that had to team up to be victorious.
Okay, so what does Adwa mean to me? Adwa, when I think about Adwa, that means I gain my pride, my respect, and I have my independence on it.
And the second question was, what does Adwa mean to you and future generations? Adwa to me means, it just gives me a sense of pride because, one, obviously, I'm from the only, or my blood and my ancestors are from the only nation in Africa that wasn't colonized, and we did something that many other countries couldn't do. We stood by ourselves. We governed ourselves. All the other countries tried to fight for freedom but failed. We fought even though we had only swords and shields, and we still won. And yeah, that's why I think it's important. It should give us dignity because our ancestors executed such a big feat, and that's what I got.
Hello everyone, my name is Amanuel Tenau, and today me and Senai will be explaining the history of Adwa. And first I would like to leave the floor for Senai to explain what the name Adwa is, and we'll dive into the history portion.
Adwa is a town in northern Ethiopia, and it is bordered on the south by Were Lehe, on the west by La'alai Maichu, on the north by Mereb Lehe, and on the east by Enticho. This Woreda has a total population of 99,711, and 49,546 are men, and 50,165 are women. The largest ethnic group in Adwa is the Tigrayan ethnicity, and it is 99.53% of the population. Tigrinya is spoken as a first language for 99.56% of the population, and majority of the population practices Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity.
The Battle of Adwa is one of the 5 battles that happened in the First Ethio-Italy War. It is so famous because it marks the end of the war. It all starts out with the Treaty of Wuchale. The leaders during that time was Emperor Dagmawi Minilik and Empress Taitu Betul. Minilik is the name he got after he was crowned. Before that, he was called Sahla Maria. Minilik was intelligent, shrewd, and ruthless. These traits helped him to be successful in Ethiopia's feudal politics. He strengthened his kingdom through political and economic modernization. Also, he played a huge role on civilizing Ethiopia. As a young man, Minilik had been held hostage by Theodros. This happens right after Minilik's father appointed him to the throne of Shawa and died. During his captivity, he had absorbed a good deal of Theodros' fascination with the technology of the outside world. This leads him to the thinking that modern weaponry is essential. The Italians had been cultivating friendship with Minilik for years by supplying him with rifles and weapons even before he was crowned. When Minilik came to the throne, many countries think he will surrender sovereignty to his former sponsors. On May 2, 1889, Minilik signed the Treaty of Wuchale. The main purpose of the treaty was to promote friendship and trade among the two countries. The treaty also included Ethiopia's recognition of Italy's claim over part of Ethiopia. One aspect of the treaty that would later lead to conflict was Article 17. Article 17 of the Amharic version stated that the Emperor of Ethiopia could communicate with Italian government in his dealings with other foreign powers, but the Italian text of the treaty had the word must. Italian negotiators failed to inform Ethiopia the difference between the two versions of the treaty. Based on their own text, the Italians proclaimed a protectorate over Ethiopia, which means a state that is controlled by another state. Minilik didn't know until European countries rejected to have a diplomatic relationship with him directly. In September 1890, Minilik refused to accept Italy's claim, and in 1893 he officially declared that the entire treaty was wrong. Taitu was a decisive person. Minilik always consulted her before making a decision, including this one. She chose to stand up for liberty, dignity, and against Italian aggression. The first battle to start the First Ethio-Italian War was Battle of Halai. On March 1, 1896, the Battle of Adwa began. There were a lot of tactics used and advantages for Ethiopia to win. For example, Ethiopia was vastly numerically superior. The battle was between 14,500 Italians and 100,000 Ethiopians. Also, Ethiopians were aided by Russia and France with modern firearms. Ethiopians love their country, so they had the motive to do whatever it takes to save their country. They were also religious. The day of the battle was St. George's Day. Ethiopians fasted that day and also bring out his ark, or Tawut in Amharic. It is said St. George was also in the battlefield. The Italians had inadequate supplies of food, water, clothing, and weapons. They also didn't know the place and had a map that didn't have a lot of information. All of these reasons add up to cause the victory of Adwa on March 2, 1896. The number of those in the Italian army who were killed is estimated to have been more than 6,000. Additionally, between 3,000 and 4,000 of those fighting under Italian command were taken prisoner by the Ethiopians. Perhaps as many as 70% of Italy's soldiers were thus killed or captured. More than 5,000 Ethiopian troops were killed and 8,000 wounded in the battle, a number greater than Italy's losses but a small percentage of all Ethiopian forces. The Treaty of Addis Ababa, signed in October 1896, abrogated the Treaty of Wuchale and re-established peace.
In 1896, the Ethiopian army defeated the Italian army at the Battle of Adwa. It was a resounding victory because it aborted Italy's ambition to establish a colonial foothold in Ethiopia. It was the first time non-white people had defeated a European power. The Battle of Adwa symbolizes the imagery of the idea of Ethiopia. It symbolizes the conception and development of Pan-African solidarity and identity. Also, Ottawa's magnificent victory is a model in as far as people of various cultures, religions, and languages' willingness to assemble for a purpose. It examples one of the little times Ethiopia has came together, no matter the ethnic group, and went together. 100,000 Ethiopian troops from all over Ethiopia took positions on the fields and mountains of Ottawa to encircle and defeat the opposing army. With their enormous sacrifice, they set the stage for the birth of a new Ethiopia, where the reach of freedom, politically and economically, would be more egalitarian, which means all is equal. Finally, Ottawa is significant because it disturbed the colonial order all over the world. Europeans interpreted Ottawa's victory as a call to resist and defeat colonialism and racial oppressions throughout the world.
The battles had happened around the world. The results of each war was the same. As the Europeans continued conquering and taking over territories from America, Africa, and Asia, and Australia, Ethiopia stood as the direct opposite of the colonial worldview.
በስድስተኛው ክፍለ ዘመን በባርነት አገዛዝና በቀኝ ግዛት የነበረበት ጊዜ ዓለም ጦርነት ላይ ነበረች። የጦርነቱ ምንጩም ሁሌም ያው ነበር። ኢትዮጵያኖች በስተመጨረሻ የዓለም አህጉራቱን በእጆቿ ለመያዝ ችላለች። ኢትዮጵያ ግን በቀኝ ግዛት አንገዛም ብላ ደሟን ያልሰጠች ሀገር ሆናለች።
አድዋ ጦርነት ከተጀመረ ከ7 ዓመት በፊት ማለትም ሚያዝያ 24 ሚኒሊክ ከጣሊያኑ ንጉስ እምበርቶ ጋር የውጫሌ ውል ተፈራርመው ነበር። ያ ውል ለጣሊያኖቹ የሰሜን ኢትዮጵያ ግዛቶች ማለትም ቦጎስ፣ ሐማሰን፣ አቀለ ጉዛይ እና ኤርትራ የዛን ቀንም ተክለ ሃይማኖት ነበር።
On November 3rd, 1889, Minilik was concentrated and crowned as an emperor before a glittering crowd of dignitaries and clergy by Abuna Matthios, Bishop of Shawa, at the Church of Mary on Mount Ndonto. The newly concentrated and crowned Emperor Minilik II quickly toured the northern force. He received the submissions of local officials in Lasta, Yeju, Gojam, Wello, and Begamder.
One instance in which religion was a part of the Battle of Adwa was when Emperor Minilik made a vow prior to the Battle of Adwa that if St. George helped him and the people of Ethiopia win the battle against Italy, he would build a cathedral, later named St. George Cathedral, in his name upon his victory. As it's known, Ethiopia won the Battle of Adwa and this cathedral was later built.
ንጉስ ሚኒሊክ በጦርነቱ ጊዜ እናሸንፋለን ብለው ይምላሉ። ጊዮርጊስ ካገዘው ንጉስ ሚኒሊክ ቤተክርስቲያን እሰራልሃለሁ ብሎ ቃላቸውን ይሰጣቸዋል። ሆኖም እስካሁን ባለው ጊዜ ተክለ ጊዮርጊስ ድል ከቀናቸው በኋላ ያ ቤተክርስቲያን ቅዱስ ጊዮርጊስ ተብሎ ይጠራል።
I chose this topic because I was inspired by the fearlessness the soldiers and civilians had during this battle. The religion aided them throughout the bloodshed, so much so they carried the tablets into battle. Ottawa is a symbol of the devotion to Christianity. The Ethiopian forces defeated the Italians led by Menelik. We call that day Adwa. It means something special to the entire Habesha community. Ethiopia has made a name for itself. We are brave and courageous. I have learned the bravery that comes with Ethiopia. To fight and run against an army that was well prepared and had many more advantages show that courage Ethiopia has, and I am proud of that. I wanted to represent that, and I feel like a lion expresses that perfectly. The lion is the bravest of the pack, and we truly are that for being the only country who challenged and rebelled against the Italians. Ethiopia got neighboring countries to join forces with us, which I guess you could say was our pack. Although they lost many lives, we still gained a victory and kept our country.
Ethiopia is one of the only countries in Africa to be uncolonized, and the Battle of Adwa played a huge role in that. 124 years ago today, our ancestors made history by winning a war with little to no weapons against a country that had much more advantages than Ethiopia did at the time. the leader Menelik II called on all Ethiopians to defend their country, religion, and families. Every capable person was to fight, and the incapable were to pray for Ethiopia's victory.
My name is Beatty Gassessa, and for my Ottawa project, I decided to focus on the movement of people during Ottawa in the form of digital art. I was inspired to pick this topic because I was interested to see how the battle forced people to move. I thought making a map would give a better visual representation. During my research, it was interesting to learn that more people moved towards Ottawa to help and support rather than to move away from it. But I was also surprised by the lack of records and documentation of support or involvement from southern Ethiopia. However, on my map, the only group to move away from Ottawa were the Italians who fled in the aftermath of the battle. This signifies the victory over the Italians and the independence that was held intact. This victory goes to illustrate the unity Ottawa brought among Ethiopia and how we became a stronger, more unified nation. To me, Ottawa is a symbol of independence. It shows our strength and determination over colonization. From completing the project, I've learned that when Ethiopia comes together to achieve a common goal, even in battle, they can beat a strong force such as Italy and maintain our independence.
Oh, What a War by Ruth Tremendous. Oh, what a war it was. The war was a big probable cause. The war that gave us our pride and once made our people unified. There's no mystery. It was all about the motherland that had love and peace, and people who prayed that this bloodshed would cease. Oh, what a day it was, that day filled with sacrifice, day mothers remember with precise, when their children got recruited, having a hard time to make them leave undisputed. The thought that their children might not return once they leave was their concern. But those children were not afraid, as when they saw themselves betrayed, as their rulers told them, determined to persuade. Go and save your country with her resplendence, as you are our only hope for independence. Save your continent from this predicament. Though the men were encouraged with words the emperor was giving, courage that there's nothing stopping them from winning, no thought that the starvation and fear would give their bravery smear on the road to Ottawa. Even when they were losing people, they didn't stop fighting with their blood and sweat, with their pride and strength, the victory their mother needed, and the freedom for a brighter Africa. Such a relief it was when they came back with victory, finishing the conflict with the contradictory, making it leave for good, bringing a lesson to those who misunderstood the importance of unity. Sometimes it makes me wonder, leaves me to take a look and ponder, and I always end up asking about unity and multitasking, amidst the chaos becomes a strength for a peace that comes at length. Why do we say we can't do it when 11,900 people didn't quit? With all the pressures of a war, they fought with all their vigor. Why do we say we can't unite when we've already climbed that great height? A war that still deserves a great applause. Oh, what a war it was.
Hi, my name is Mahader, and I am joined by Sareem, who will be asking me questions about our topic. So let's get started. Today, I will be reflecting on how imperialism has impacted our society, both as Ethiopians and as people in general. As we all know, the Battle of Adwa was a result of an attempted imperialism by Italy onto Ethiopia.
What is imperialism?
Imperialism was an ideology practiced by powerful European nations to extend their rule over foreign nations. This is the reason Italy tried to colonize Ethiopia for the first time. Imperialists were usually white men because in most cases they were sent by European countries.
How has it impacted our society?
One way imperialism has impacted our society is by changing our perception of race and color, meaning we tend to value Eurocentric features. Examples of Eurocentric features are smaller noses, bigger eyes, smaller lips, fairer skin, and a lot of these things you see in society are viewed as better than or more wanted than any other feature. And Eurocentric features are basically just European beauty standards. So as I mentioned before, the reason we favor these features or we view them as better than other features is because part of the reason is imperialism. It's had a very big impact.
Why is it bad?
The impact imperialism has had on our society is bad because these values lead to prejudice towards a certain group of people, and that leads to division, and that leads to mainly division between the people that are negatively and positively affected by these values and these standards. The people positively affected by these values imprinted on us and a lot of other African countries by Europeans usually get things easier in life, and a negative thing is that people assume their lives are perfect and that they're at times never taken seriously. The people who are negatively impacted, just naturally negatively impacted by these values, usually have to work harder to achieve things that the people who are positively impacted can get really easily. They also have self-esteem issues a lot, never feeling good enough and wanting to change themselves to fit society's standard, which is usually impossible. And also never really get representation. There's always a lack of representation in media, and there's always shaming and stuff like that. Quick example of said prejudice and division between groups is between African countries, people from African countries, and Black Americans. Some Africans have egotistic pride that stems from many things, such as knowing their roots or looking a little more like the beauty standard than African Americans. In the case of Ethiopians, usually the pride will stem from these things and being the only African country pretty much to get rid of the colonizers or invaders the first time. This also leads to some Africans not claiming to be Black and putting themselves above Black people. Ways to avoid this behavior are to educate ourselves and apply what we've learned, even if it defies societal norms or makes us uncomfortable, because it is important to get rid of the toxic mentality that imperialism brought into our culture.
Thank you for listening.
The city the Battle of Ottawa took place in relates to me as both of my parents were born and raised in Ottawa. I have traveled there multiple times and seen my family there, as well as seen the battlegrounds the fight took place. I am also familiar with the native language, Tigrinya, and can understand it fluently. This battle and the history behind it makes me feel like my home got the honor to be the place where the roots of Ethiopia took place.
I have always grown up listening to the bravery of our ancestors, and it taught me a lot. When I was in Ethiopia, we used to celebrate Adwa Victory Day at school annually, and there would be songs, plays, and poems all about Adwa. One of my takeaways from Adwa is that everything is possible, even if it doesn't look like it is. At that time, most if not all countries in Africa were colonized, which makes it hard to think of victory. Yet, Ethiopians refused to surrender and chose to fight. The victory of Adwa inspired me to be purposeful and to do whatever it takes to achieve my goal. Hope you get a good understanding of one of Ethiopia's most important history, the Battle of Adwa.